strangely, they call Cuba a communist society. I wouldn't call myself a communist. I am sympathetic to syndicalism, I believe. I don't. I am okay. Let's roll back. I'm sympathetic to anarchism, but I'm not aware of how a society will work without. Let's remove them. I'm not aware of how a society would work without a government at all. Which means I'm more sympathetic towards syndicalism, where society can operate around smaller societies. I am absolutely for stronger unions, but I don't think that's enough. I would like to see a move towards worker-owned co-ops. I think that's a more optimal way of structuring the workplace, where the workers can vote for their own bosses. Like, it's not a nebulous owner that just decides who's the boss. In Sweden, we've done some things, like we have unions have not only bargaining rights, but they have rights to the table, the corporate table. But I don't think that's enough at the end. So yes, strong unions in the short term. Long term, I'd like to see a move towards worker co-ops. Tenant unions. You mean hyresrätts. What's it called? Hyresgästföreningen. Which I don't think many people. Yeah, I don't think many people are part of. Really, I don't know anyone who's. I don't know if I like that. I would like to see renters being having a direct seat, like a owner tenants. What is it called? An owner. What's called when you own a property or an apartment and you have a bostadsrättsförening. Bostadsrättsförening. Translate. What would that be in English? Housing cooperative. I would like to see renters being allowed to form housing cooperatives. You know, I like especially if the renting property is owned by the city. Are you a political decentralization and local autonomy? I don't know is the answer. Is the honest answer. I am sympathetic towards those. Because I'm sympathetic towards more human autonomy. That's my strong internal feelings. Like that's what I orient around, and I believe left-wing ideas more correlate towards human autonomy. And that's why I'm also sympathetic towards anarchism. However, I can't see anarchism actually working because I assume that we will have marauding warlords just coming in and overthrowing the local whatever political structure they have, you know? Essential companies that affect entire communities should be owned and managed by the locals, in my opinion. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. I agree with that. So which is also why I think so. This is what brought me to worker co-ops being the next step in societal evolution. We have democratized the political sphere. We said, you know what? These dictators, these kings, these rulers are not beholden to their people. So we're going to remove that system. We're going to overthrow them. And we're going to give every person a say in their country. That's like the description of the events, okay? However, we're going to still allow the rulers who have more money to decide how their companies is run. And I'm like, isn't that just a corporate fascism in the end? Like, if you break it down, isn't that just corporate fascism? So I would like to see worker place democracy as a first step, and then moving towards a worker-owned system. And we can do this quite easily. We can say that when a corporation is either going under or they are going to sell to someone else, the owner no longer wants to run it, you can allow for the unions to buy up the corporation. Like, they can have first dibs. And you can force either by government loans, or you can force the banks to allow for more accessible loans by worker co-ops. You know, so you can structure the society in a way which, without forcing companies to become democratized or worker co-ops, you can structure society in such a way that it inevitably leads to such a structure. Because a lot of banks today aren't willing to lend to a large group of people coming together to form a worker co-op, you know? Essential companies that are affected by liberal democracy is not real democracy, more like plutocracy. It's the ideal version of it is a democracy, but it becomes a plutocracy. What are your thoughts on traditional guilds? I'm not too read up on the traditional guilds, to be fair. So I don't have but in my mind, how I envision them being structured, yeah, I'm more okay with them, because weren't they more closer towards a worker co-op, if I'm not mistaken entirely. So I would be more sympathetic towards that structure than the modern structure. But I could be completely wrong. Yeah, okay. So yeah, but I don't know how we would recreate those traditional guilds today. I have no idea. And I don't know if that's optimal even. Like I said, I think giving workers the ability to buy up a dying company would be better than giving them first dibs to buy a dying company, or giving them first dibs if a company wants to sell, is better. And giving them better, forcing banks or the government handing them loans which are better, which isn't as punitive as other loans can be. Like we have CSN, we have our student loans. Giving handing workers that type of loan to buy a company can only be good at the end of the day. And everything that I've talked about here wouldn't impact our society's overall structure in the short term or even in the long term, I believe. Like we would still have capitalism, but it would be worker-owned capitalism. The workers owning the means of production, you know? And I don't see any good argument against this at all. Like ever. I haven't found, like there might be cases where the workers will do a bad job. Of course. That's always going to happen. But I've never met a worker who's completely happy with their boss and thinks their boss is doing awesome. I know for a fact that at every fucking workplace to this day, they complain about the middle management, about the owners, about the bosses. There are gonna be edge cases where that doesn't happen, of course. Like small mom and pop stores or small businesses where you have direct contact with the owners. That's gonna happen. But then the sun takes over. And the sun is gonna be a douche. Inevitably. Like I just think that we can structure this better if we let the workers have a say in who rules over them. Because that is all we're asking for. And I do believe that if the workers own the means of their own production, they're going to be happier. They're going to be able to pay themselves the amount of money they know they deserve. And that is inevitably a good thing.